What I am about to tell you will make you deeply uncomfortable. I am 88 years old, and just 18 months ago, a tiny plastic tube, a DNA test my granddaughter convinced me to take, destroyed every single memory I had of my childhood, my father, and the family I thought I knew. The man I wept over at his grave was never my father at all, and my mother, she knew. She always knew. She took that secret with her and buried it 62 years ago. I have spent every night since asking myself the same question. Was anything real? Was any of it real? My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the truth. The truth I was denied for 86 years of my life. I grew up in a small house in rural Ohio in the 1940s. We weren't rich, but we were a family. My father, the man I called father, was a tall, quiet man named Harold. He worked at the steel mill 6 days a week. He smelled of iron and cigarette smoke. He never said, "I love you." Not once. But I never questioned it. Men of that era didn't say such things. I just assumed that was what fathers were. My mother, Eleanor, was a beautiful woman, soft-spoken, always humming to herself in the kitchen. She had green eyes and dark hair she kept pinned up. I adored her completely. She was the warmth in our house, the laughter, the softness, the love that Harold never seemed capable of giving. I never once suspected she was hiding anything. She was my mother. She was perfect. Or so I believed. Harold died in 1963. I was 27 years old. I remember standing at his graveside in the January cold, crying harder than I ever had in my life. Isn't that strange? A man who never once told me he loved me, and I was absolutely broken at his grave. I gave the eulogy. I called him the backbone of our family. I meant every word. I mourned him for years, decades. A grief I carried like a stone in my chest for the rest of my life. I married my wife, Catherine, in 1961. We had 3 children and eventually 6 grandchildren. Life moved forward the way it does, loudly, beautifully, and without pause. I thought of Harold often, but the questions I had about him, why he always seemed distant, why he never looked at me quite the way he looked at my younger sister. I chalked it all up to his personality, to the hard life of a working-class man. I never once let myself think anything darker. It was my granddaughter, Lily, she's 24, sharp as a tack, who started the whole thing. She'd done one of those ancestry DNA tests for a college project and thought it would be wonderful if the whole family joined in. A family tree project, she called it. She was so excited. I remember laughing and telling her I was too old for science experiments. But she wore me down, the way grandchildren always do. I spat into that little tube in February of last year. I thought nothing of it. 6 weeks later, Lily came to my door. She didn't call first. I knew immediately something was wrong. She had that look on her face, the look your children get when they have bad news and don't know how to begin. She sat down across from me. She opened her laptop. She said, "Grandpa, I need to show you something, and I need you to stay calm." I was not calm. Not for a single second of what came next. The DNA results showed no paternal match to Harold's family line whatsoever. None. Not a trace. But there was a match. A strong match. To a family I had never heard of. A man named Thomas Whitfield. The results said he was my half-brother. A man of 82 years old, living in Pennsylvania, who had no idea I existed either. I stared at that screen for a very long time. I think I stopped breathing. I felt the entire architecture of my life. Every memory, every photograph, every story I had ever told about my family begin to collapse. Thomas and I spoke on the phone 3 weeks later. He was a good man, kind, confused, and just as shattered as I was. We pieced it together slowly. His father, our father, a man named George Whitfield, had worked alongside my mother's family in the late 1930s before the war. He and my mother had known each other. There must have been something between them, something my mother buried so deep that not a single soul in our family ever caught a whisper of it. George Whitfield had died in 1971. I would never get to meet my real father. The cruelest part, the part that wakes me at 3 in the morning still, is wondering why Harold knew. And I believe he did know. Looking back through the lens of this terrible truth, so many things make sense now that never did before. The distance, the coldness, the way he would sometimes look at me across the dinner table with an expression I could never read. He raised another man's son for 27 years and never said a word. Was that loyalty to my mother? Was it shame? Was it a quiet, endless punishment he inflicted on both of us? I have tried to find it in my heart to forgive my mother. Some days I manage it. I think of her humming in the kitchen, of how fiercely she loved me, and I tell myself she was afraid of losing everything, afraid of the shame that would have consumed a family in that era, afraid of losing Harold and me both. She made a human choice in an impossible situation. But on other days, the anger is so heavy I can barely lift my head. She let me grieve a stranger. She let me build my entire identity on a lie. Thomas and I have met in person twice now. We sat at a diner in Pennsylvania the first time and just looked at each other for a long while before either of us could speak. We have the same nose, the same way of tilting our heads when we're thinking. Small things, but those small things undid me completely. This man, this good, kind stranger, is my blood, my brother. And we have known each other for less than 2 years. We lost 80 years together because of a secret our parents decided to keep. My children took the news hard. My daughter wept for days. My eldest son went quiet in that terrible way that means the pain is too deep for words. They grew up believing Harold was their grandfather, building themselves out of his stories, his photographs, his legacy. Now that legacy has a crack running straight through the middle of it. But I told them what I tell myself every morning when I wake up, and the weight of it settles back onto my chest. The love was real. Whatever the biology was, whatever the lies were, the love inside that house was real. I have to believe that. I am 88 years old. I do not have many mornings left to make my peace with this. I think about George Whitfield, my real father, a man I never knew existed until 18 months ago. I have found one photograph of him. He is laughing in it, standing in a field somewhere, squinting into the sun. I keep that photograph on my nightstand now, beside the one of Harold. 2 fathers, one who gave me life and one who gave me a name, neither of whom I ever truly knew. That is the grief I carry now. Not just one father lost, but 2. If there is one thing I want you to take from the story of an old man at the very end of his years, it is this: secrets do not protect the people we love. They only delay the pain, and they make it compound interest. My mother thought she was protecting our family. Instead, she handed a time bomb to every generation that came after her. Tell the truth while you still can. Tell the truth before someone else has to excavate it from the rubble of your silence. I wish, more than anything I have ever wished for in 88 years of living, that she had told me herself. I have lived 88 years on this earth. I have loved and grieved and built a family with my bare hands. And in the final chapter of my life, I learned that the very first page of my story was written in someone else's handwriting. I do not tell you this for sympathy. I tell you this because the truth, no matter how late it arrives, no matter how much it costs, is always worth having. Even now, even at 88, even when it breaks you open and leaves you sitting in the dark at 3 in the morning, holding photographs of men you never really knew. Thank you for sitting with me today, for listening to an old man's confession. If my story touched your heart in any way, please give this video a like. It means more to me than you know. And please subscribe to this channel, because there are more stories like mine. Stories of love, of secrets, of heartbreak, and of the fierce, stubborn courage it takes to face the truth. I'll see you in the next one. God bless you all.